the intro.
Season
2.
3-ish.
Season 3. All I care about is the video, man. That's all I care about.
We are here. Welcome to Dawgs Central Live. Today we are going to kick off 2022 with our film previews. Not to sound too braggadocious, but this was the show that kind of put this this franchise on the map. It has been the most accurate UGA prediction show in the UGA market for at least the last 12 months. Caveat to that is the one time we were way off was before the Georgia Clemson game last year, when we thought there was going to be like 60 to 70 points scored and there was 17, but we did kind of nail that Georgia's defensive line would win the game. So we are in a situation where new staff at Oregon, lots of transfer portal stuff happening, just not many priors. So we're gonna dig into some stuff and pull what we can and try to give you guys the best picture of what we think is going to happen. But I do want to say, I think that as the season goes on and we get more and more information and more film on all these teams, what we do here definitely gets easier week by week.
Much easier. This that's a big caveat for folks that going in with transfers on Oregon, a new staff. I think we have a lot to lean into, and I'm excited to talk about it. But also, you never know in these situations. So,
okay, so which games got? I mean, we were all pretty excited about Clemson last year, but I mean, Oregon. I think we're coming off the Natty, and you know, we're coming in as king of the mountain kind of thing, on top of the mountain, and then Oregon just feels like not like a letdown at all, but it's like we would have been so stoked last year to play Oregon.
Yeah,
you know? And this is
absolutely.
This is a good team. They've recruited really, really well.
Yeah.
They're the best recruiting team in the West, and I mean, this could be. I mean, it could be I think it's gonna be a good game. I really do. I mean, at that point, I don't know. I don't want to give away picks, but that line, I just don't.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
No, it's definitely a marquee matchup, and the intersectional like theme to it is fun. I mean, Georgia and Oregon were scheduled to do a home and home when Damon Evans was athletic director. That obviously never happened, but this does feel like a game that's kind of overdue. And yeah, I mean, as someone who like lives, you know, in the Mountain Time Zone, Oregon is definitely one of the 2 or 3 biggest brands, college football brands west of Texas. And it's fun. I think this is an exciting matchup and great uniform matchup, and very interested to see what the Oregon turnout in Atlanta is.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Josh. I think if we'd said last year, hey, you're coming out of the gate with Oregon, we would have been ecstatic. I will say this. I mean, I think fans are excited for football. I'm excited for football. I think Oregon, with Dan Lanning, Bo Nix is their quarterback. Like, there's a lot of storylines that if you're not as excited this year because Georgia won a natty and you feel like, you know, kind of maybe it's a little bit of a letdown to be playing the number 11 team in the country versus starting with a number 3 team. There's enough storylines in here that you should really, I think you should really get excited, because I think it's going to be a great game. I think Dan Lanning is going to have this team. Dan Lanning himself is going to be out to prove something. I think he's going to have this team ready to prove something. And I'm excited to see it go down. Also excited because real football is back. Week 0, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't
wet the beak a little bit, but
they didn't even have the beer machines working in Ireland after they had given away all the free beer.
Yeah, we need the straight, unlaced, you know, pure product, and that's what we're getting this Saturday.
Yeah,
and I mean, you know, this game going on the same time as Utah Florida is also kind of cool. Just the sort of the Pac-12 SEC East theme here.
I like that. It's the Pac-12 SEC challenge. If this was basketball, I love it.
Exactly. All right, y'all want to get into some plays?
Plays? Cool. Let's do plays.
I'm sorry. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was going to say, I thought we were going into the players and we were talking about the SEC Pac-12, and then we've got some friendly faces over there. Of course, Bo Nix being the transfer. We've talked about the transfers. Everyone knows at this point Bo Nix is the quarterback. But anyway, we broke down, we got some plays from the Oregon spring game. And let me see if I can push button and see if I can make it happen. Nope, not that one. Let's just do this.
Okay.
Boom.
Bam. Look at that. All right. So I want you guys to take note of something here. Oregon's first play of the season, and the Ducks are running a tight bunch formation. If that feels familiar, like you've seen it before, it's because Alabama ran them against Georgia all the time in the SEC championship game last year and in Indianapolis. The guy that caught that ball, number 7, his name is actually 7 McGee. That'll be easy for you to remember. He's only 5'8", but he is very shifty. I expect him to be the starter in the slot. Oregon kind of has a similar problem to what Clemson had last year, where they have like a bunch of 6'3+ dudes all over the field. Mm-hmm. And then they have that one guy that can run slants. Number 2 on the green team on that clip that right here. So that's DJ Johnson. And he's probably the edge guy that's the biggest threat now that Kayvon Thibodeau is in the NFL. The guy he blows past at left tackle is TJ Bass, number 56. Bass was like a fringe All-American left guard last year, and Oregon is going to try and play him at left tackle potentially. We're not quite sure yet, but something to watch. There's been a lot of hype around Oregon's OL going into this game, but they're also like inexperienced in spots and gave up approximately 15 sacks in their spring game. So I'm very confused by the like media narrative that's like, this is the strength of the team is the offensive line. I actually think they have more depth on their defensive line.
All right. Which clip we're up to? 3?
Yes, sir. So you're going to see a little RPO here. This is Bo Nix at quarterback. Basically just saying expect a lot of RPOs from Kenny Dillingham. He was the Florida State offensive coordinator last year. I think you'll see them try to RPO Georgia's young linebackers and confuse them, and see what happens when that happens. Yeah. All right. So this guy here in clip 4.
Oh, you want 4?
Yep. Yeah. So Ty Thompson is the quarterback here. If Bo Nix isn't playing quarterback, this will be the guy who is. And the wide receiver he hits right here, number 11, is Troy Franklin. He was a former top 8 overall receiver in his class, short on experience coming into second year, but he was one of the top wide receivers in the 2021 class. He's going to be good, and his size, I think, makes him a little bit of a threat. We expect Javon Bullard to start at that slot, kind of nickel corner star position. I think Bullard can cover him tight, but if you get into a jump ball scenario, Franklin's probably going to have that advantage with his size. And then clip 5, you're going to see the guy at the bottom of your screen here. He's going to come across the middle, make a nice catch. His name is Chase Cota, UCLA wide receiver transfer, big body, never really broke through with the Bruins, but he does not have speed to burn anyone. But again, like big-bodied wide receivers, I think if things go wrong for Georgia on Saturday on defense, it's going to be because they just can't handle these big bodies on the outside.
They sometimes have a bit of a feet.
And then we've got Mase Funa coming off the edge here, the near edge. I'm sorry. Where's clip 6?
Clip 6?
Yeah. So you're going to see number 18 here come into the backfield and make some havoc. But Mase Funa is his name. They've got a defensive line that is similar to like what you see in the SEC, where they run 2 to 3 deep at all the positions. And they've got some freaky athletes. They've got some dudes that used to play tight end and running back at edge. Like there's a lot going on there. I don't know who you're going to see as their starters on Saturday, but I think that's an interesting storyline in this game. Like it may be a little harder for Georgia to, like the way that you see teams struggle to wear Georgia out because they're just subbing all the time up front. I think you'll see some of that from Oregon, especially now that Lanning's over there.
I mean, I think Dan Lanning couldn't have inherited a better personnel of the jobs that were available to run what he's going to want to run in that front 7, especially. Like I think they're going to be there's a lot of similarities to that depth chart for Oregon with personnel for what Dan Lanning's going to try to do for sure.
Yeah, and I was looking at that depth chart, and there's only a couple of 3-stars, and there's 2 5-stars, Sewell and the other linebacker, and then the rest of them are 4-stars. Again, this team has a lot of talent.
Yep.
Graham, where are we on the clip? 7 or 8?
We are clip 7. So the guy you're going to see here is, again, 7 McGee, number 7. Sorry, guys, my light went out, so we're just going to deal with it. You can still hear my voice. That's all that matters. 7 McGee, I think, Oregon has got to get this dude the ball. He is explosive. You see there, he can erase some angles. He does that weird super Saiyan kick at the sideline, which is kind of sweet.
That's the Antonio Brown kick.
Yeah, dude. He's just 5'8", dude, trying to kick people in the face. I like him. All right, so here you're going to see Oregon's other big-time wide receiver recruit in clip 8. This is Dante Thompson, and he just burns the defense right there. He's big, he's athletic, and he's fast. And the DB was Jaleel Florence, who might play some plays for the Ducks on Saturday. I think he, is kind of maybe a rotational guy for them, but I think you'll see him at some point. So the opposite side of this is Georgia may have an opportunity to pick on Florence if he does come into the game. Clip 10. Yeah, you got it. Another RPO on the goal line. Yeah, exactly. So 2 times we've seen him in the red zone, 2 times RPO into a slant over the middle. That time is to Franklin. So they're going to try to get Georgia's safeties to bite down and open up some slants behind them. And then you're going to see clip 11. Whoops, sorry. You're okay. So here is Chase Cota again. This is a nice throw from Thompson. And, I mean, I'm sure if you're a Georgia fan and you are following Georgia closely enough to watch a show like this, you've probably seen the speculation of, Lanning not announcing a starter. I think Bo Nix is going to play, but maybe Bo Nix has just not been able to beat out Ty Thompson, and this is going to be the kid. I think he's better with some of the quick game stuff than Nix, but, man, there's some decision-making that happens in the spring game that makes me feel like if they decide to throw him out there, it's going to be a lot like Anthony Richardson versus Georgia in Jacksonville last year, where it's just not the situation you want to throw a young quarterback in to try and build confidence.
Yeah, I think you have to go. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think you have to go with Bo Nix, and you have to have Ty Thompson as the guy that you're going to, if you need to pull the leash on Bo, because of Backyard Bo showed up, or there's something, going awry for that offense. I think, to me, I feel like exactly what you said, Graham, is that it's just a tough spot to throw a kid in their first kind of, high profile. There's a difference between, getting a start in a high profile Pac-12 game versus being, against the reigning national champions with that Georgia defense in Atlanta on, national TV in the first game of the year. And so I think Kirby, he said it in his press conference this week. He said, I know who the quarterback's going to be. I'm not worried about that. And I think I personally think what he's saying, and I'm not saying that he's daring Dan Lanning, but I think he's saying like, yeah, I'm daring you to roll Ty Thompson out there. Please do that.
Be my guest.
Because he knows exactly what all of us saw in the spring game as well. I mean, that kid's going to be good, but you need a couple of games to get your legs under you before you go against a defense like Georgia has.
Agreed.
Graham, you ready to get back into it? I'm on clip 14.
Yep. So Bo Nix, speaking of him, still a questionable decision maker. We just talked about Ty Thompson's decision making, but I think Backyard Bo is what you just said. And you see just where is that going? Not really sure. Kind of looks like he just he sees 2 yellow jerseys out there and decides to just kind of throw it up.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of know, we've seen Georgia bait him into some throws like that over the years as well. So this is a guy that would scare me if I'm Georgia. Noah Whittington is his name. He's a transfer from Western Kentucky who was maybe the best offense in college football last year. He's a 5'8" kind of scat back, and he's actually out of Peach County High School in Georgia. Passed up by a lot of Power 5 schools due to his size, but you can see there he is quick. And if you let him get on the edge, he can create some trouble. So I think that's a guy to watch for if you see him in the game. And you're going to see this next play, they're going to toss him the ball out of the backfield as well, and he's going to make some things happen here. So one to watch for. And then one thing that was really noticeable in this spring game was that Oregon's defensive ends did not set edges very well here in clip 18. They just get collapsed down a lot. And yeah, it's like, I think this offensive line is a way better run blocking offensive line than it is a pass blocking offensive line. If I was playing Georgia, I wouldn't want to have to rely on the run. Like, I don't think that's how you beat Georgia, but I think that like, yeah, I don't think they're going to excel in the pass block, but I think they can run block. So clip 20, this is what you can be scared of from Oregon. These guys have size and they can play jump balls in the air. That's Coda again. Georgia's done well with these big wide receivers in recent years. I think Kamari Lassiter has the body to play these dudes. Keely Ringo, we know definitely does. But Georgia plays a lot of one-on-one coverage on the outside, and they'll try the quarterbacks. Like Oregon's going to try these defensive backs and see what happens. And then clip 23. So the defensive back you're going to see on this play is a guy named Triquezy Bridges, and he's a big-ass corner. He's 6'3". He's fast. He started for Oregon last year. He can play kind of safety, play on the boundary. Like, his size, I think, is going to make him an NFL draft pick. And what you see on that throw right there, that's Ty Thompson behind the receiver. Like, that's why they have, Thompson was a 5-star all-world high school quarterback, and that's why they haven't gone with him yet. It's because it throws like that. Clip 24. So I think Oregon wants to use a lot of these crossing routes, rub routes, mesh type pick plays, varied formations to try and confuse Georgia. That's Thompson on the underneath route, which I think Georgia can defend those well, but these young inside linebackers are going to have to be prepared to kind of drop out or step up depending on the situation. And that's Troy Franklin here catching the ball. Again, watch out for him. And then 25. So you're going to see the edge rusher here that makes the sack is Braden Swinson. So he had a big breakout performance in the spring game where he had 5 sacks in the first half. But his run defense grade last year was a 46 from PEFF. So I think he's going to be that situational third down edge rusher. But if Georgia can go tempo and catch him in the game, after a third down conversion or something and run at him, I think they can have some success because I don't think he can set an edge against McClendon or Broderick Jones. 26. So, yeah, this, again, just kind of talking about offensive line versus defensive line. Like, this pocket collapsed on Nix and Ty Thompson a ton in the spring game. I have questions about this offensive line and its ability to play against Georgia's front seven effectively, especially in pass protection. And then 28, you're going to see.
I got 27.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got the right one. Yeah, this is an interesting. So watch the two inside linebackers. They're going to come off the right side. They're going to do this pre-snap shift and sort of do this overload blitz to the left side of the offensive line and come free. I think it's just, those are reserve guys, but I think you'll see Lanning blitzed inside linebackers a ton at Georgia last year, and I think he's going to do it again on Saturday. The question is, can Georgia make him pay for pulling those guys out of coverage? And then 28, this is Oregon's pass catching tight end, Terrence Ferguson. They will split him out at all the wide receiver positions. Just a guy to keep an eye on. And then, I don't know what's 29.
There we go.
So that's actually Terrence Ferguson. Excuse me. Apologize. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. See what I think. Clip 30 is actually one that I meant to have you run. No, it's not. That's okay. Anyways, the only other thing I made note of, and I screwed up the clip numbers, was that that same deep crossing pattern they ran to Seven McGee to open the spring game, they also ran it again for a big play later in the spring game. So it's clearly a pattern that Dillingham likes and that, you know, they've had some success with in their own practices.
Yeah, I get a lot of talent. And you looked at the players and the stats, PFF grades, and you looked at that stuff, and we got 30 plays for you to look at. So it's a lot to put out, and I appreciate you doing that. And we've got we're familiar with some of the names that whose numbers are going to be called on Saturday. After looking at it, what's your feeling on? I mean, it seems like the question mark is the quarterback. I guess that seems like what they're missing. Is that what I'm gleaning from that little tape breakdown there?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think Bo Nix, like, you know, I think you could turn him into a productive quarterback if you can keep him playing within himself. I expect him to play on Saturday. I mean, like Bo Nix, we kind of know what he is, right? But I mean, I think Oregon can do some nice things with him if the offensive line can give him time, if the receivers can get separate. Like, so I actually think it's kind of like Bo Nix. If it's bad Bo, then this game just goes sideways early in the first half. But even if it's good Bo, I think how this thing plays out is really dependent on all of the pieces around him. I mean,
there's bad Bo right there, buddy. 4.2 yards per attempt in 3 games, 34% success rate. These are the 3 games he played against Georgia. A negative pass EPA on 145 attempts.
I mean, yeah, one thing that I pulled was Georgia pressured him 18 times last year, and he was 5 of 18 for 39 yards on those throws. So, like, if Georgia's going to pressure him again, then I think we know how this is going to turn out. But yeah, I can also say that about most football games with any quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is going to be if you look at results last year, and obviously players can get better from last year to this year, and this is the first game. But the right side of that Oregon offensive line, Amave Lalu, who's likely going to start at right tackle, had a 61.9 PFF grade overall, and a 61.4 pass blocking grade, which wasn't great. I mean, the guy struggled at times in pass blocking in particular. Byron Cardwell, who's likely going to be their starting run back, had a 29.6 pass protection grade from PFF last year, right? So if you get in situations where you're trying to if Georgia can get in situations where they're forcing Oregon to go to some type of, max protect or whatever, like it really is going to come down to, you got a couple of transfers at running back, and you got a running back who last year wasn't very good in pass protection, and you got a right tackle last year that wasn't that great either. And so there are holes that you can definitely expose in the pass rush if you can get them into situations where they're depending on Bo Nix or Ty Thompson or whatever to actually have a little bit of time to try to have to get 10 or 12 or 15 yards down the field for a first down. And I think Georgia has been, last year, obviously the defense was very, very good at getting teams into those situations, those kind of pressure second down and third down situations. But if you get them there, if Oregon, can't get any momentum running the ball, if they're not picking up, plays on first and second down, and they get in a situation where they're behind the sticks, there are quite a few holes I think you can expose in the pass protection in particular.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the crux of this whole thing for Oregon. Yeah. It's like as much as there's been talk about what Georgia lost on defense last year, I think what they return in their front four this year will be better at creating quarterback pressure without the help of without Georgia having to bring those linebackers and extra rushers from other parts of the secondary. So I don't know. I mean, I think the thing I want to kind of go through real quick is we've got some it's tough with this game because Oregon, like you said, they've recruited well, relatively speaking to their conference opponents, but they don't face anything like Georgia on a year in, year out basis. And the closest thing we've seen them play was Utah twice last year in terms of a team that's just going to beat you up and make you quit on the line of scrimmage. And we saw how that went.
And a team that's as athletic at the line of scrimmage too, right? It's both. It's that physical combined with the athleticism. Or Utah was it last year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Georgia's more athletic than Utah at the line of scrimmage,
for sure.
And I mean, that's not a affront to Utah. It's just look at Georgia's roster and what they've recruited. But yeah, Josh, do you mind rolling those?
There's your stats. You want to talk about the personnel before I roll them? Because I flashed them up on the screen real fancy like.
Absolutely. So, 2021 Georgia had at least one tight end on the field for 90.3% of its offensive snaps. So, this offense runs tight ends. You see there, it's
the
11 personnel,
right
12 personnel, occasionally 13 personnel, but they play these dudes a lot. And it's also worth remembering that Darnell Washington was hurt for half the year, and Fitzpatrick was a very good serviceable tight end. He was an NFL draft pick, but I don't think his talent level was what we're talking about with your first three tight ends or even your first four tight ends in this room. So Todd Monken likes the tight ends.
Are we doing the Oregon plays, or are we doing the UGA tight end plays first? What do you want to
do? The Oregon Utah plays real quick. So Utah ran more 12 and 13 personnel than anyone last year. In the first matchup with Oregon, I pulled clips from both the first and second matchup. They are mixed together. But their tight ends had 71 total snaps in the first matchup and 70 total snaps in the second matchup. All three of them played at least the offense had 71 total snaps in the first matchup. All three of their tight ends played at least 50 snaps in that game. So they're on the field a lot. That's a tight end right there. They're splitting these dudes out wide. They're going heavy set run formation. And you can kind of see how Oregon handles this. These guys get out in the open field and it's a problem. But I mean, this is what worries me if I'm Oregon is these running backs at the point of attack. We know Georgia runs a pull heavy offense. They'll pull these tight ends just like Utah did right there with that kind of H-back set. And Oregon couldn't really get to the edge to stop it. This looks familiar from the Michigan game, right? Toss out to the edge, let a tight end lead block for you.
Or Lab
QB power.
Lab McConkey in the SEC championship game ran that exact play for 6 versus Alabama. So
exactly, yeah. I mean, so we know these are things that Georgia does, right? And if I'm Georgia and I've watched this tape, I know that's a tight end right there, just breaking 9 tackles, rumbling down the field in 2-minute drill. If I'm Georgia and I know Dan Lanning is there and I know that the scheme has changed, but I'm just that's number one right there. The linebacker for Oregon is Noah Sewell, who is a very hyped linebacker. He's also 260 pounds. And I think you ask a 260-pound guy to go and, erase angles against Kenny McIntosh, it's going to be tough. There's also going to be a play right here where he gets stiff-armed through the earth by a quarterback. So I'm not maybe buying the hype on Noah Sewell that some people are selling. I know he's a big athletic kid, but he didn't handle this kind of physicality well when ran at last year, and Oregon's entire defensive front didn't. And it's also, I mean, it's not just the offensive line, right? Or the defensive line. these little underneath routes that Utah ran just got these guys so kind of mixed up and confused and had them biting on different fakes. And eventually things started opening up over the top. That was actually probably a pass interference call. You see him shove him in the back right there. But point being, that's the nickel corner that they're going to start on Saturday. Hill, and you see a tight end that's probably not as athletic as what Georgia's fielding, blowing him off the line. So it's something to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, here you have just tight end coming right through. These guys are biting on these underneath routes. They're worried about it, and all of a sudden you slip them behind, and it's an easy 6 points. So I think that Georgia, I know that Georgia does a lot of these things, and I think you're going to see them do a lot of these things on Saturday. That's Noah Sewell, or no, that's not Sewell. I'm sorry. Here Sewell gets punked again right there. Boom.
So yeah, it's interesting. So Sewell, he reminds me of a little bit bigger Henry To'oTo'o, right? He's a guy who he's a very athletic kid, but he's built in kind of an older school prototypical kind of Mike linebacker build, right? Like, I mean, he's thick, he's gonna try to plug gaps, take up some space, and just be physical with you. The thing that you showed, and I saw this looking at film of Oregon too, is I haven't seen the physicality from Noah Sewell. I didn't see it in the Ohio State game. I didn't see it in Utah. Like he made some plays, but I haven't seen, based on his build and what you would consider his style of play, it definitely, you can't be in the middle. You're a big, like, pop people, Mike linebacker, be physical, and you're going to have to figure out how to cover, or you're an athletic guy who, like, you're a good tackler, you can fill a gap, but really you're athletic and you can get, no one's going to get you out in space on a mismatch. And he kind of gets stuck in between, where he kind of does okay in coverage. He kind of does okay being physical. It's just like a kind of okay linebacker, and it's kind of, I feel ridiculous saying that when you look at the hype machine for him, but I don't know that I'm buying it either. I don't know if you have Darnell Washington or Brock Bowers or some of these guys, or you have Tate Ratledge, like, coming down on him. Like, I don't know that he's going to be the guy that can be physical enough to fight through that, or the guy that can be athletic enough to get out on somebody in coverage. Now, that won't happen every play, right? He's going to be good enough to do that at a level that's probably better than most of the linebackers that Georgia will play this year. But these guys that he's going to be up against are better than anybody that he's going to play the rest of this year at these positions. And that's the question.
So it is interesting we're talking about the defense, because the last 2 years they're allowing almost 28 points a game, and they were putting up over 31, 32 points a game the last 2 years. So there's been a fall off on the defensive side of the ball, and that's clearly why they hired, they Lanning after Cristobal came in there. So yeah, it's like, can this defense live up to their hype and their recruiting? And we're gonna find out real quick, as Georgia returns a hell of a lot of offense.
I tell you what, I do feel comfortable saying. I feel comfortable saying that when you look at some of the fits that they had versus Utah, and players being out of position in some places, I feel comfortable saying that's probably not going to happen as much this against Georgia, because of Dan Lanning and because of that staff over there. I do think, those guys know how to scheme up the defense where the guys are going to be in the position to make the play. It's just a matter of, can you make the play? I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of, like, out of position, or, like, kind of not knowing where you are, like we saw in some cases last year with Oregon. So
flipping back to the offensive side of the ball for Oregon, Graham, I'm curious. The Seven McGee guy is curious, because he's a 5'9" guy, clearly a speedster, and the other two guys are bigger body wide receivers. And you talked about some of the tight ends. I mean, clearly they're going to have to try to get mismatches. Where do you see who do you see lining up, or do you have an idea of where we can watch? And what is he number? Yeah, he's number 7.
Number 7.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of, if you're watching the game on TV, you're probably gonna hear they're gonna probably hype him up a little bit, little fast speedster guy that may produce some mismatches on Georgia.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So I'm like, who do you see lining up? Who do you see him?
Well, he's the slot guy, so that would be Bullard, which is, kind of a perfect scenario for Georgia, because Bullard is one of the fastest guys on the team, and just I think he has the hips to cover some of those short slants and ins and outs and some of these little kind of underneath routes, and he's going to close well and tackle. He's a super hard-nosed football player, so I think Georgia will be fine in terms of guarding him downfield, but is Oregon able to do some things with him in the screen game, maybe where they can get someone else to occupy Bullard, and Georgia has problems maybe fighting through some blocks on the edge and getting him to the ground.
And you want to talk some Georgia tight ends next?
Yes. Yeah, let's throw that tape on. I mean, you're going to see. So just let these run and we'll talk as they happen. This is 12 personnel, first play of the Kentucky game. Georgia's going to have a run play off the edge, and they blow the blocking assignment. It's a loss. Very next play, it's going to look like they ran the exact same play, and they're going to do this at Kentucky's linebackers. These guys are ready to get blocked, except for they're not getting blocked. It's a play-action bootleg, and all of a sudden Darnell Washington's rumbling out in the flat. Kentucky's linebackers last year were a liability in coverage, right? And so this was where this game kind of broke down for Kentucky on the defensive side of the ball. Kentucky was very good on the defensive line. They were a good Kentucky team, but when you asked these linebackers to deal with these tight ends, whether it was in space and pass coverage or in run blocking, they couldn't do it, right? And so I think you might be looking at a similar scenario on Saturday when Oregon and Georgia play. Here's 12 personnel, but you're going to just see these deep curls, and Kentucky's defense gets so focused on these tight ends that all of a sudden you start seeing A.D. Mitchell left wide open. Here you're going to see like a max protect kind of pass situation. Bowers and Fitzpatrick are in blocking heavy, and that leaves Ladd McConkey time to run a long route. Stetson, big throw from the opposite hash. I was told he has poor arm strength. Apparently not, because he can make that throw. Who would have thought?
That was into the wind as well. I was at that game, and he was throwing into the wind going in that direction. So,
see, there you go. Look at that. You saw some of these Oregon or these Utah tight end pulls, like these kind of run play where the tight end's going to come like an H back across the face of the formation, and some of this counter stuff. Georgia does that a lot too. You'll see them motion these tight ends quite a bit. Here you're going to see. So Oregon's linebackers get so focused on these tight ends right here that it takes them out of the play. And all of a sudden James Cook gets left wide open on this angle route in the middle of the field. Is just this big gaping hole. So I think that's like the way that Todd Monken started this game, the way he called this game with like, I'm going to come right out. I'm going to make your linebackers think about these tight ends. I'm going to do some things. I'm going to show them some different looks. I'm going to, kind of get them second guessing themselves. And what happens all of a sudden is instead of just playing, like here's Fitzpatrick getting to the second level, getting enough of this linebacker for Kendall Milton to take off on a long run. What happens all of a sudden though is that instead of just playing football, these guys are thinking way too much, and you get them leaning one way and you go the other way. Right here, you're going to see these tight ends come out, and they're going to come all the way up to the safeties and get a block, and it's going to let Stetson spring for a nice little zone read keeper. And I think that Georgia can have a lot of success in the quarterback run game on Saturday. Like that's something that we saw Utah do fairly easily as well. Here you're going to have Bowers. He's going to come across the formation right here, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, he's going to come and pull with the guard, and he's going to get this edge defender, and all of a sudden Zamir White's gone. So I guess what I'm trying to drive at here more than anything, obviously, is that like what Georgia needs to do on Saturday is things they're already doing. And we've spent all offseason hearing people ask, like, how is Georgia going to take advantage of all this tight end talent? And the reality is they had a tight end on the field for 91% of plays last year. When you go and look at their numbers when they were running 12 personnel sets, 2 tight end sets, 379 plays, 235 run plays at 5.7 yards per attempt, 144 pass plays at 9 yards per attempt. That's very successful, efficient offense. And yeah, I mean, you've got a guy like Brock Bowers that can do things like this in the screen game. Obviously, we know, Brock Bowers can do a lot of things in a lot of different facets of the game, but I think that Georgia is going to come out in these heavy tight end sets, and they're going to dare Oregon to do something to stop them from running the ball against them. And as soon as Oregon does that thing to keep Georgia from just taking 7-8 yard chunks all the way down the field, you're going to see what you just saw in that last play where it's bombs away. There you've got all 3 in the game. And these guys, this Kentucky defense gets so occupied by these tight ends that all of a sudden you get Zamir White in space one-on-one, and it's an easy first down. Kenny McIntosh can do things like that on a level that White really couldn't in terms of pass game. White was admirable with it, but like Kenny McIntosh can run routes and do things after the catch like a wide receiver. Here you get another one of these wheel routes. This is John Fitzpatrick, fit right between a linebacker and a safety. You get Brock Bowers out here wide, isolated next to Fitzpatrick to do a little extra stuff. And yeah, I think it's just overwhelming. And like, there's nobody else that does this stuff, maybe outside of the guys in Salt Lake City. Like, Andy Ludwig is a fantastic offensive coordinator, and he's kind of doing some of these things as well. And you saw how Ohio State handled it. You saw how Oregon handled it last year, and it wasn't very good. But this just isn't something you can practice against if you're Oregon. It's like you can't just run a Bowers, a Gilbert, and a Delp, and oh my God, what's the one I'm forgetting? Darnell Washington out there and practice against it, because those guys, there's just not many of them walking around on the face of the earth. We were talking earlier about Oregon's defensive line having trouble setting edges. Like, you add tight ends to the end of the line like this and just make it even more difficult and add more leverage. And yeah, I mean, it's hard.
Dan Lanning said it in an interview this week where he said that people talk about the matchup issues with tight ends and linebackers, and he said those tight ends, he's like, they're matchup issues with anybody. Like, you put them on a corner, like you run them out as a wide receiver, like they're going to be a matchup issue for a lot of teams. And I think Oregon, if there's one place that is a big question mark for them on that defense, is in the secondary, right? Like, you've got the Bridges kid, who is super talented but hasn't played a ton. You've got Gonzalez, who again, he's good, but he hasn't seen the talent that he's going to see in this game. You've got I think Addison and Williams is probably the best one out of that group, but he didn't play well in the bowl game either. And so, like, I think at the end of the day, like, you've got a few guys in that secondary as well where there's so many things that you pointed out that they haven't seen, and then you throw just on top, you can also just split out Brock Bowers on a guy and force a guy to cover him that hasn't been historically good in coverage, and all of a sudden you've created like a very simple mismatch. So it's the complexity of like what's coming at you, and then the simplicity of like, even if you take away a lot of the complex things that Georgia does and the athletes they're running, it's like just line up and good on good. And it's going to be a challenge for some of these guys, because we've seen it again, like players are going to get better from year to year. But when you look at at their bowl games, when you look at what they did against Utah, when you look at some of these other opportunities these kids have had to be in the game, they didn't do super well against guys that were significantly less athletic than they're going to see on Saturday.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, so there it is, man. Graham, it's good to be back. We're not wrapping the show up. I'm just pausing just to reset a little bit. We're not going anywhere.
That was film. Sorry. Yeah, I know that was lengthy.
No, dude. Hell yeah. That's what they eat it up, dude. We're getting comments and we're getting 30. We got a bunch of viewers live on YouTube. So this is great. This is what we're talking about. Talking season's over. Talking season's over. That's the name of the My God, a Podcast hype video, which you got to check out on Twitter, which we all retweeted. So check that out. But we'd be remiss to not talk about Prize Picks. We have a coupon code, so 100% up to $100 deposit match on that. Dawgs Central is that coupon code. I'm excited to be partnering up with them. Excited to do some Prize Picks this week.
They've got some fun stuff.
Oh, dude, they got there's so much action tomorrow night. So if you're jonesing, which everybody is, get in there. I didn't even realize Arizona State was playing, dude. We got our old friend Felipe Franks. Yeah, right. I think so.
No, not Felipe Franks. Emory Jones.
Emory Jones. Sorry.
Emory Jones. Yeah.
Emory Jones.
They're the same.
They're very similar quarterbacks.
My apologies.
Well,
no, so I'm excited.
I do need to share as we enter the 2002 season that this podcast is no longer firm for Herm when it comes to Arizona State football. We were previously very firm for Herm, but due to UGA sanctions and what seems to be coming down the pipe, I think we're going to fade the Sun Devils for now.
Yeah, firm for Herm has turned into Herm the Worm, I think, and we'll just flip the script on it.
All right,
as far as Prize Picks though, tons of great lines on there. If you want to bet on former Georgia quarterback JT Daniels' line tomorrow night, you can bet on whether or not he will go over or under 250.5 passing yards. So,
and 2.5 touchdowns. 2.5 touchdowns.
2.5 touchdowns.
Under.
Got rushing yards.
Under.
We know where Josh is going to be.
And our friend Emory Jones is 1.5. Felipe Franks is much lower than that. I like the over on that. But anyway, I don't want to get on that path. We'll have some more fun. But please check it out. That's a good way to help us out, and it's a good way to have a lot of fun. And Dawgs.
And it's totally legal in the state of Georgia and most states, but a lot of the states where you guys cannot legally wager on a betting line for a game, Prize Picks is legal to give you an alternative to get some action.
Take some PayPal. One of us might or may not have put some hat money that from PayPal into said Prize Picks today. So,
I want to give. Oh, go for it, Graham.
I just realized that they've updated some of the lines since the last time I looked last night. Brock Bowers over under 59.5 receiving yards on Saturday. This is a Dawgs Central official. You can go ahead and hammer the over on that. I'm telling you,
that's a lock. That's a lock.
Yeah, it's the stone cold lock of the week of the year.
Shout out to Ryan Helinski for making me a little bit of money because Prize Picks had him at 157.5 passing yards, and the guy blew that out of the water in the first half versus Nebraska last week. So thank you, Ryan Helinski from Northwestern. Nice. Appreciate you.
Do we want to talk about some predictions, or are we saving that for Saturday?
No, we'll do it now.
I got some stats
as well.
Okay, here's a 3-year average for Georgia's offense: 47% success rate. Last year we're at 49.5, so we're on the upward trend there, and I don't see a reason to think we'll regress much there at all, if not improve there. Defensively, 37% defensive success rate allowed, and this is cool. I'm going to try this out and see if this helps us with some of these metrics. Georgia on offense puts up 1.1 point per successful play and allows 0.6 per defensive play successful allowed. So if we flip that to Oregon, so if you're averaging run 63 plays and they're roughly 50, if they're going to get 50% success rate, that's 30 something plays and they're averaging over a point. It's easy to see Georgia being able to run up 31, 32, 33 points on average. Offensively, on the converse of that, Oregon, let me get here. Be to play it too. Oregon is again a pretty good offensive team, 49% success rate on a 3-year average, and a little higher on the 43, which is not bad. I mean, Georgia's just elite defensively in the last 3 years. And they're right there matching that 1.1 per, but they're allowing, almost two tenths more allowed. So I'm thinking that Georgia's going to have 49% success rate. They're going to run 60 something plays, and they're probably going to be around that 1.0 to 1.1 yards point per. So I'm saying 31, 32, and I think Georgia is going to hold them to around 0.7, 0.6 at 45% success rate. And my prediction, let me see here. Where's the score? Be
Oh my gosh.
31-20.
31-20. Oh my gosh.
31-20.
31-20. There's mine. So I'll explain that in a blog post because that was a lot of numbers and a lot of stuttering. But anyway, that's where I'm going to be working my
it's science.
Numbers.
Okay.
It's not science.
It's
It's what I'm doing this year. I'm trying to take all these success rates and all that and actually match them to some points. So that is
I love it.
So I came out a little lower than I thought. Honestly, I was expecting to be a 34, 35, and it's definitely possible. Georgia can blow up, and I think Graham just said to hell with this. That was terrible.
My light flicked off again. Having some issues here.
Yeah. So I have all my lights on that Philips Hue thing, and sometimes randomly they go off and change colors, and it drives my wife crazy.
Graham just wants everyone to see the whites of his eyes when he makes this pick. So I respect it.
John, where's your head at for this?
Listen, I keep going back and forth. So I as a subjective student and watcher of football, I have one side. As a Georgia fan my entire life, I have another side. But I will say this. I think that the athletes that Georgia has on offense are going to be incredibly overwhelming for Oregon. I think this is probably, Graham, you've said this a couple times, and I agree. I think this is probably the best offensive line that Georgia is going to have, assuming everyone stays healthy under Kirby Smart. I think this offensive line is going to be very, very good. I think the skill players are going to be very, very good. I think there are challenges for Oregon that you saw exposed by Utah all over the field. Those exist. Whether those guys have gotten better or not in the offseason, I still think they exist. And honestly, I am going to throw a little bit of a nugget in there, and this is just the emotion side of it. I think there's a lot of pressure, man. There's pressure on Dan Lanning. There's pressure on Bo Nix. There's pressure coming across the country. There's pressure. Oregon, all that said, Oregon has played well in these games. They've played well when they've come across the country and played teams. Now, they played teams like Auburn, whose quarterback was Bo Nix. So there's that too. For me, I've gone back and forth. I think, the numbers that I look at, the matchups that I look at, I think this is going to be a 38-18, a 38-20 type game. I think Georgia is going to cover the 17 personally. And I could see it being higher than that. I think Georgia's going to score a lot of points this game. And I think it's going to be, honestly, I think a lot of it is going to have to deal with Oregon not having as many possessions as I think other opponents might have. I think there's going to be, Oregon's going to have a little bit of trouble staying on the field, in my personal opinion. So I think Oregon will probably get a few, right? Like, it's the first game. I think they'll probably get a few where you have some of these big bodied wide receivers that end up making some plays, and you end up having a good thrower or two in an intermediate kind of thing, and Oregon will probably score some points. But I don't see them scoring more than 20, and I see Georgia scoring 38. So that's my pick. Yeah, 38 to 19-ish. Perfect. It's a cover. It's a cover. At a 17-point line, it's a cover. That's what you need to know. It's gonna be fun for about, I don't know, 18 minutes for Oregon. And then I think it's gonna be challenging.
Yes. I like where your head's at. I think this game, like, as much as we're talking about Georgia's inexperience, I mean, you're still talking about like Jalen Carter and Michael Williams and Tyron Ingram-Dawkins and Zion Logue and a host of other.
Kirby Smart, the way he talks about Smile Munden's athleticism, like,
I
and
was
he
about
doesn't,
to
and
say
Kirby,
that, yeah.
and Kirby doesn't throw out like he doesn't waste compliments.
100%.
Sorry to
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. I was going to say the same thing. Like, I've been told that Smile Munden is more athletic than all the dudes that Georgia has lost the NFL. And I remember watching Channing Tindall look like a freaking rocket ship speeding across the field and nailing dudes. So that seems like a good thing for Georgia. I think there will be some mental errors early. I think I'm not worried about Lassiter on the edge. I think that Lassiter will be fine at the defensive back spot opposite of Ringo. I won't be shocked if Ringo gives up a play or two just because he's kind of prone to doing that. But I think Georgia's going to have to press these receivers a little bit on the outside and make things tough for them. We know what's there in Christopher Smith. Very anxious and excited to see Malachi Starks on some 6 defensive back packages because I think he's going to probably do something that everyone's like, whoa, that guy should not be able to move that quickly at that size, and he will. The defense will – there's going to be something that happens. There will be some mental mistakes or some errors or what have you, but I do kind of think that Georgia is going to push them around up front a little bit on the defensive line. And I think that the talk about the offensive line for Oregon, as positive as it's been and as many snaps as they return and all of that, it's like when I turn on the tape and I look at what they've done against talent, equal kind of talent or something close to what Georgia plays, like it doesn't look that great, right? I think they have a big question at what they're going to do at the tackle position. You know, they're moving the right tackle maybe over to left tackle, but they may put that guy at left guard so their former left guard can play left tackle. Like, they're trying to figure some stuff out at both bookends, and I wouldn't want to be doing that going into a game against Georgia. I think that Georgia will harass the quarterback position pretty regularly, and I think you're going to see, probably a turnover or two. I like where Georgia is offensively. I mean, I think this ends up being the best Georgia offense we've seen since 2018 from a statistical standpoint. And I think that these tight ends are going to wreak absolute havoc. And right when you get worried about how do I match up big on big, here comes Ladd McConkey, here comes A.D. Mitchell, here comes all these athletes at wide receiver, and here comes Kenny McIntosh out of the backfield. So I think Georgia is going to score a lot of points. I think Oregon's defensive line is good. Like, I think they're deep, I guess is what I should say, but I just don't think there's the star power there to, I watched Broderick Jones come into a national championship game and shut down Will Anderson. And I can't, having seen that, I can't really sit here and convince myself that anyone from Oregon's coming off the blind side with any regularity and creating problems. And if they do get in the backfield, we know that Stetson Bennett is good at getting out of those situations and avoiding those big negative plays. So I think Georgia's going to score a lot of points. I think Oregon's going to score some points too. I am going to say Georgia 45, Oregon 20, maybe 24. But I think Georgia covers either way. And I mean, I'm not going to be surprised either if we get to the end of this game and Georgia's giving up like 13 points. You know what I mean? Like, just, I don't know. How many times have we seen Kirby Smart do this? Not 22-ish. God, it's 20. Call it 20. I'm just playing with you. But yeah, I think we've seen Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann and now Will Muschamp involved. Like, we've seen these guys do this on defense year after year after year. And one thing that Kirby's been really good at in his time at Georgia is games where he has a lot of time to prepare, be that bowl games or openers. Georgia had no business winning that 2016 opener against North Carolina and Atlanta, but they did. Like, yeah, I think
shout out Mitch Trubisky.
Mitsubishi. Yeah.
Graham, while you were going through that and I was listening to you break it down, I had 45-17 typed in before you gave it. So
nice.
So then They had a backspace and 22-ish, and then you yelled at me.
love it.
I wanted to say 48, but
I had 48 in there. I think it was like
listen, I could see it. I think for me, I think 38 is the floor for Georgia, and I think it just goes up after that. Because if you look at number of possessions, if you look at what I think Georgia's going to be able to do, I think there's going to be a lot of points scored for Georgia. Now, the Georgia defense, I don't know. I just have a hard time looking at that line of scrimmage and seeing, even historically with Oregon, the teams that they've struggled against. Even if you go all the way back to 2019, that Auburn game, like the challenge was, they lost that game because at the end of the game, the line of scrimmage, like for Auburn, was just able to be more physical, and the Auburn defense was able to be more physical. Utah, more physical at the line of scrimmage. And I don't see anything in that line of scrimmage on either side that the defensive line for Oregon, I think, is going to be better than they were last year. But I definitely don't see Oregon's offensive line. I just don't get it. I hear a lot of people talking about it, like we talked about earlier, and I look at the film, I look at some of their grades from last year, which some of them did pretty well, but there are holes there. And I just watched what Utah did to them, and I'm like, so really? Like, I just it's some of the same guys. Some of the same guys are the same guys that could do absolutely nothing against a Utah defensive line that is not as athletic and physical as they're about to see on Saturday.
I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that
there's a lot of covering going on in the chat here. A lot of
what?
A lot of covering.
The one caveat is the Kirby Death March.
Yeah, just
Will Kirby. Listen,
it's still a phrase from your brother's pod. So yeah,
absolutely.
Shout out to Locked On
Bulldogs, guys. Kirby Death March. Is he going to slow everything down, try to avoid injuries if Georgia jumps out to a big lead?
It probably, but
Yeah.
I still think that they'll score. And I mean, I guess the thing that I would say is, ever since Mockin came into the fold, like even when Georgia does slow it down, they still go and score points. Under Jim Chaney, it was like, oh, okay, we're just going to sit on this and punt after a first down. But Mockin likes to score points.
2 weeks ago, he said, Todd Monken, his quote in the press conference was, "I get paid to score, to be explosive, and to contribute to winning the game." And so the way he was talking about that was he was like, I don't get paid. He said his exact quote was, I don't get paid to win the game. I get paid to score points and to be explosive. And then I also have to contribute to winning the game. And that's where I think that's that second half kind of like ball control. I think that's where he was trying to fit some of that in. But he was very clear in his press conference, at least for me, listening to him talk, is he wants to score points and be explosive. Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to say is, two things. All right. Two factors I think lead to Georgia scoring some points at the end of this game. One, some of the wide receiver recruiting narratives that have been going on, some of the negative recruiting that certain programs have participated in against Georgia lately, because Georgia hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2002 with Terrence Edwards. Like, I think Todd Monken is real tired of it. And I think he's going to come out and be like, I think the over-under for Georgia passing yards on Saturday should be 300.
Yeah.
I think they're going to air it out. And then the other side of it too is, I don't think Kirby wants to embarrass his former assistant by any stretch, but like Kirby and Dan Lanning's relationship was not like Kirby and Sam Pittman's relationship, or
Correct.
Kirby and Mel Tucker's relationship.
And Kirby beat Sam Pittman 37-0. So
yeah, exactly. Well, but he could have beat him 57-0.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Like, that was a courtesy call. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't know. I think that by no means do I think Kirby's angry at Dan Lanning for leaving or anything like that. But some of the things that went down and how he left probably maybe rubbed things a little bit wrong. And that's all I'll say. If you want to talk about it over on the Dog Central subscriber forum, we can have that conversation there. But yeah, I think that Kirby will be fine. Like if it's 52, that's fine.
I'm gonna throw one more out there. Listen, I love Josh. Josh's little his overlays.
I'm totally nerding out over here.
The overlays are perfect. I'm gonna throw one more prediction. I think Stetson Bennett is gonna throw the ball 25 to 30 times this game. I think he's gonna throw. I think he might push 35 pass attempts this game.
I think if that's what's working, then he will.
Well, yeah, I think there's gonna be. I think if you look at the screen game, if you look at what Georgia had to do in the SEC championship game, I think you're going to see a lot of those plays, not because they have to do them, but because they want to do them. Like we just talked about it watching Utah. Like I think you're going to see a lot of what might have been a handoff to a running back is now just, is now a toss to a tight end, which is an attempt. I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the one thing I'll emphasize, the last thing I'll say before we wrap this up is just like, this game really breaks down for those two inside linebackers. Oh, one thing I haven't even mentioned, Justin Flo, he's back. He was a heralded recruit. Everyone wanted him, Georgia included. But I don't think he can do much in pass coverage either. I went back and looked at the one game that he played last year.
Getting an overtime.
He was targeted 7 times and gave up 6 receptions for 68 yards and a touchdown in pass coverage against Fresno State.
It doesn't sound good, Graham.
I think it's going to be a bad day for Sewell and Flo. I think Georgia's going to RPA those dudes to death. Get those big guys running down.
Well, I knew it was going to be a bad day. I knew it was going to be a bad day for those guys when Kirby said he had tremendous respect for them. I have tremendous respect for those linebackers. We tried to recruit them here. Yeah, it's going to be a bad day.
Wow.
We got a lot more to talk about. Clearly, we could keep going, but we're going to save some of it because we've got Ask Dog Central coming up tomorrow night. We got our Players Lounge tailgate show Saturday morning. So we're going to keep we're getting great comments in there, but keep them up. Keep the comments coming in.
Dawgs Central Live, game day, 10:30 a.m. Saturday morning. From the shadow of the Mercedes-Benz Butthole Dome and the Big Body Benz, we're going to be there. Come by the Players Lounge tailgate. We're doing our whole thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope to see you guys. But if you can't be there, tune in because Spike Squad will be there. Former Georgia Letterman could be on set with us. We don't really know what's going to happen, but there's probably going to be some interesting folks that we talk with, and it'll be fun. It's
going to be fun and at this point unpredictable, but we're going to be having some fun not only Saturday but the rest of the year. All right,
I'm excited. I'm gonna button this point up that Graham just mentioned. There's gonna be a lot of fun there. If you can't make it and you want to experience the sights and sounds of what's happening outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, please tune in because I think it's a unique opportunity that I haven't seen in the past for Georgia fans to be able to tune in the live environment there. So, yep,
absolutely.
All right. Check us out everywhere. Share, rate, review, all that sort of stuff. We need you to do this. Spread the word. We're having fun, and come join the fun on dogcentral.com. With that, we'll check with you later. Go Dogs.